Hey, hello. People on the planet these days are constantly pushing the envelope of physical endurance and even the endurance of their machines. They're climbing higher and they're diving further. They're swimming with the sharks, and they're just taking everything to the limit. And while they do that, they've just like I have here, they have a camera going and they're taking pictures and video and trying to record every moment of the thrill. Well, what happens when the thrill turns to terror? When the thrill turns to terror, they reach out to what can save them. For the climber, it's a rope. For the guy swimming in the ocean with the sharks, it's a cage. For the guy at the bottom of the ocean in a submersible that's had a problem, he's looking for oxygen. So we're reaching to what can save us. There's a story in the Bible that kind of keys in on this idea, and that is recorded in the book of Luke, the Gospel of Luke, I should say. The story of Jesus on the cross. Hanging next to him were two thieves. One was cursing him and saying, you know, if you're the Son of God, then climb down off the cross and save us also. The other was rebuking the first thief, and in the midst of that, towards the end of it, he says to Jesus, he says, Jesus, remember me when you come in your kingdom. There are three things that he draws our attention to there. The first one is a recognition of who Jesus is. Well, how does he know who Jesus is? I mean, Jesus is on the cross as well as he is. Well, he probably knows it from perhaps the trial. That during the trial, Jesus didn't utter a sound. In the book of Isaiah, it says that he would be led like a sheep to the slaughter, like a lamb before its shearers, he would be silent. And so Jesus, even though he could have defended himself, he didn't. Perhaps he recognizes him in the sense of as they're having the nails pounded through their hands and their feet, that again Jesus didn't utter a sound. He called no curses down on those who were putting him on the cross. As a matter of fact, he even says, you know, he prays to the Father, forgive them for they don't know what they do. So the thief has recognition of who Jesus is. One of the other things that he has is he recognizes Jesus' authority. Well, how does he do that? Well, he wasn't probably unaware of what was taking place in Jerusalem and the surrounding area. The things that Jesus did were talked about all over. That Jesus demonstrated authority over nature. He calmed the sea and the wind when he was in a boat with the disciples, and they, being fishermen, were still fearful for their lives. It tells you what kind of storm it was, and yet Jesus had the power and authority to stop the wind and the waves. He had the power over our physical being, in which he demonstrated with the man with the withered hand. He said, stretch forth your hand, and Jesus healed it. He demonstrated his power over the physical realm and the creation of things when he turned the water to wine. He demonstrated it in spades when he raises Lazarus from the dead. Jesus has authority, and the thief recognized that authority. The third thing that's involved here that the verse speaks of is the afterlife. That the thief realized that and knew that there was an afterlife, and that he was going to come into judgment. There's a passage in Ecclesiastes where Solomon writes of a young man who has given himself over to the pleasures of the world, and says that, you go ahead and you give yourself to the impulses that you have, and you enjoy yourself, but remember that you'll stand in judgment before the Lord for these things. And the thief certainly did that. He enjoyed the impulses that came into his heart and mind, and he knew that he was going to be paying for them. And yet, he also knew that Jesus was his way of escape. That Jesus had the power and authority. And that one day there would be a life to be lived, or that day actually a life to be lived in eternity. And Jesus tells the thief, when the thief says, "Remember me when you come in your kingdom." Jesus said to the thief, "Today you will be with me in paradise." The scripture says that today is the day of salvation, and it certainly was for the thief. And it is for us too. When our life turns from a thrill to terror, what will we do? Will we reach out to Jesus knowing that He, as He said of Himself, "I'm the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but by me"?